So with this lecture, we'll begin the design of a high performance amplifier in which we'll put together everything that we've learned about designing amplifiers and add a few more things as we go along. And we'll end up with an amplifier that has performance parameters that are far superior than a single stage amplifier. So let's begin with what we are given and what the specifications are. So we are given a bunch of as many NPN transistors as we need with a beta of 200. We are given dual power supplies, a plus 12 volts and a minus 12 volts. We are given resistors of all values, well, all meaning values that are these multiplied by as many tens as we need. So these are kind of the commercially available values. So it could be 1 ohm, 10 ohms, 100 ohms, 1 kilo ohm, etc., 1.2, 1.5, etc., etc. And we are given large capacitances. So with all of these, we are asked to design an amplifier that has the following specifications. The magnitude of the overall voltage gain should be greater than or equal to 25,000. The polarity of gain is not important. It can be plus or minus. That is the overall gain. The input resistance of this amplifier must be greater than or equal to 2 mega ohms. The output resistance must be less than or equal to 5 ohms. The collector current of any transistor, there are going to be obviously more than one transistor, of every transistor, and any transistor must be greater than or equal to 1 milliamp and less than or equal to 10 milliamps. So it should be between 1 and 10 milliamps. The 1 milliamp comes from frequency characteristics. We'll discuss these after the design is over of how current affects frequency response. And 10 milliamps is to simply conserve the power. The lower the current, the lower the power. Also, we are asked to use only DC coupling, not use AC coupling. So no coupling capacitors, which means that from one stage to the other or from the input to the first stage, we do not use capacitors. We must directly connect the signals. But we can use emitter bypass capacitors. All right. So let's begin. So we say, well, we know from our previous discussion that the gain of a single stage amplifier is around 300. It varies, but around 300. And we need a gain of 25,000. So the first question we ask is, how many stages do we need to obtain a gain of 25,000? And in order to answer that, the first thing we need to do, which is actually trivial, but we must ask this: when we have multiple stages of amplification, do the gains of these stages add or do they multiply? I assume you know the answer, but anyway, we just do very quick intuitive analysis. So we say, well, here is stage 1. We'll connect the output of the stage 1 to another amplifier stage 2. The input is here and the output is here. So what is the overall gain of this two-stage amplifier? So we say, well, VO2 over Vin, which is overall gain, can be written as VO2 over VO1 times VO1 over Vin. Just simple arithmetic or algebra. And therefore, the gains of the second stage and the first stage multiply to get the overall gain. So the gains multiply. Incidentally, when gains are converted to dB, they will add, because dB converts a gain to 20 log of that quantity, and logs of multiplied quantities add. So with 325,000, we need at least 2 stages of amplification. And of course, as we've seen before, amplification means a common emitter stage, because so we'll be working in this design with common emitter and common collector stages. We will not use common base stages. because as we had seen before, common base stages don't make good voltage amplifiers, and our goal here is to make a good high performance voltage amplifier. So what we are saying is that we'll need at least 2 stages of common emitter amplifiers, because 300 times 300 is how much? 90,000, right? So 2 stages minimum we need. Alright. Let's look at Rin. Rin we are given must be greater than 2 mega ohms. Of course, this is a very large resistance, but that's what makes it a good voltage amplifier. So the question we ask is, can a common emitter stage provide such a large Rin? So let's see. The input resistance of a common emitter stage is R pi, the intrinsic input resistance, and R pi is Vt over Ib. Now we want R pi to be 2 mega ohms. So we get Ib from here as Vt over R pi. So that's 12.5 nanoamps when we calculate this. If the base current is 12.5 nanoamps, we have a beta of 200. So that gives us a collector current of 2.5 microamps. So what we are saying is that to get an input resistance of 2 mega ohms from a common emitter stage, the collector current must be 2.5 microamps. But we are told that the minimum collector current must be 1 milliamp. Therefore, obviously, we cannot use a common emitter stage to get a gain of, an input resistance of 2 mega ohms. Incidentally, a 1 milliamp collector current will give us an R pi of 5 kilo ohms. So you substitute this here. IC is 1 milliamp, so IB is 1 milliamp by beta. Substitute that back here and we'll get R pi equal to 5 kilo ohms. So for our design, given that the collector current has to be higher than 1 milliamp, means that the maximum R pi we can get is 5 kilo ohms. Because if IC is higher, IB is higher and R pi will be lower. Alright, so which means we cannot use a common emitter amplifier to get a 2 mega ohm. What about an emitter follower, a common collector? We know that the input resistance of an emitter follower is approximately beta times Re, where Re is the emitter resistance. We want 2 mega ohms here. So 2 mega ohms by beta 200 gives us 10 kilo ohms. So we need an Re of 10 kilo ohms, which is reasonable. So we should be easily able to get an input resistance of 2 mega ohms by having an emitter follower. So what that means is that our first stage of the amplifier has to be an emitter follower, so as to get a high Rin. Okay. We also need an R out of 5 ohms or less. So again we ask the question, can common emitter stage give us an R out of 5 ohms? Now we know that the output resistance of a common emitter stage is RC. We've seen this before. So the question is, can we make RC equal to 5 ohms? Let's see. RC value depends on the DC collector voltage of that stage, the common emitter stage. Let's assume some nominal value 0, because we have plus 12 minus 12, so in between 0. So if VO is 0, then the voltage across the collector will be plus 12 to 0, so 12, and we want a 5 ohm resistance or current of 2.4 amperes, which is very large. Our maximum IC is 10 milliamps, so we cannot get a 5 ohm resistance, output resistance from a common emitter stage. So we have to look at the emitter follower. For an emitter follower, the output resistance is 1 by Gm. Again, we've seen this before. 1 by Gm is Vt by Ic. So Ic is Vt by R out, 25 millivolts by 5 ohms, 5 milliamps, which is doable because Ic is within our range of 1 to 10. Which means that our last stage will also have to be an emitter follower to get the output resistance to be 5 ohms. So here is our first cut block diagram. We'll have an input stage which is an emitter follower to give a large input resistance. We'll have two gain stages to get a gain of 25,000 or more, and we'll have an output stage which is an emitter follower to give a very low output resistance. Alright. So now we begin our, or not yet. Okay. A couple of comments about the DC biasing. So we are given dual power supplies, and we had observed before lecture 8, you can go back and look, that because we have plus 12 and minus 12, the base voltage at the input of the amplifier can be 0. It does not need to be a positive voltage to bias the transistor in the active mode. It can be 0. So go back and look at lecture 8. If this is 0, there is no need for the voltage divider R1, R2, which we had used in a single supply, that self-bias circuit. So the R1, R2 are not required. We need only the RC and RE, and that will be enough bias. And the collector and emitter current will be set by the emitter resistances only, as we'll see and as we have again seen in lecture 8. And so the collector current will basically be the emitter voltage divided by the emitter resistance, and it will not be a function of beta at all. And because it's not a function of beta, the bias stability that we were worried about is not a consideration here, as long as we put an RE, and that we will do. And so then there is no need for R1, R2. Alright. Okay, so let's start the design. Now, I make a note here that of course we'll go through this detailed discussion, I think lasting over maybe 3 lectures probably. And we'll come up with a final circuit. But note and remember that the design that we come up here will be only one possible way of designing this amplifier to meet the specifications given. There are other ways, because this is a design question. There are other possible configurations or blocks that would give the same specifications. So I would like you to come up with your own different configurations after you've gone through this set of lectures. Okay. So we start with the input stage, and we've decided that's an emitter follower. And the emitter follower circuit is very simple here, because we are saying no need for R1, R2. This Vs is our input signal source, and of course, as usual, we are assuming that the DC value of the input signal source is 0. So the DC voltage at the base node is 0. And this is a very simple circuit. Remember that the emitter follower does not need a collector resistance. So there's only one resistance, so we just have to find this resistance. And then we have designed this stage. So let's find this resistance, which we already found actually. I forgot. So if I go back, let me go back. We said that for Rin to be 2 mega ohms, for the emitter follower, Re has to be 10 kilo ohms. So we already found Re, so there's nothing we need to do to design this. Re is 10 kilo ohms, and that will give us an Rin of 2 mega ohms. Now let's do the analysis of this circuit, because we need the analysis to find the performance parameters. So we say, well, the DC base voltage is 0, a plus a 0.7 across the base emitter. So the emitter voltage is minus 0.7. The resistance is 10 kilo ohms. So we find the current. The current is 12 minus 0.7 is 11.3 divided by 10 kilo ohms, which is Re. So we get 1.13 milliamps, which is good. This is in the 1 to 10 milliamp range. So this is a simple DC analysis. AC, We know that the voltage gain of an emitter follower is 1 approximately, so we just write 1. Input resistance is 2 mega ohms. So that is our first stage, at least for now. Okay, then we add a second stage. So we say first stage, now you want a second stage, which is a common emitter amplifier, and we connect the emitter of the first stage to the base of the second stage, a common emitter amplifier, input at the base, output at the collector. And now we'll design the second stage. We'll do a DC and then an AC. So first we notice that this VE1, which was already we had found, was minus 0.7, and because of DC coupling we are connecting this directly to the base of the second transistor Q2, and this Q2 will have a drop of plus 0.7 across the base emitter. So VE2 will be minus 0.7 minus 0.7, so minus 1.4 volts. We need to design the current. So let's set the current to be 1 milliamp. We can set it anywhere between 1 and 10, but we already saw that the lower current gives a higher Rin, and higher Rin is always better for a voltage amplifier. So we'll keep the current to 1 milliamp. So we say, okay, the current is 1 milliamp. This voltage is minus 1.4 volts. So Re2 is this voltage divided by the current. So 10.6 volts, 12 minus 1.4 is 10.6 divided by 1 milliamp. So we get Re equal to 10.6 kilo ohms. By the way, all along through this entire design, we will assume that the collector and emitter currents are basically equal, because we are assuming that the transistor is in the active mode, and in an active mode the collector and emitter currents are different by beta over beta plus 1, which is such a small which is so close to 1 that we'll assume it is 1. So we'll say IC is equal to IE throughout. Okay, so we get Re2 equal to 10.6 kilo ohms. But now you recall that we are given a discrete set of values for the resistances, and there is no 10.6 there. The closest is 10, the next is 12, so we'll make it 10. It really doesn't matter much whether it is 10 or 10.6, so we'll make Re2 equal to 10, and with Re2 equal to 10 we can recalculate the collector and emitter currents to be 1.06 milliamps. So that is our DC design. Not yet. Okay, then what do we do next? Next, we ask two questions. What value of RC2 do we choose? But more importantly, actually we need to ask this question which we have, which is very, very critical, is does the second stage load the first stage? See, what we did is we connected this output of the first stage to the second stage. Does this connecting affect the first stage? So two questions. Let us ask the second question first, because it is more fundamental. Okay. So how does connecting the second stage affect the first stage characteristics? Characteristics, we always look at DC and AC. So let's look at DC first. Now the base of Q2 draws the base current, so this current. We saw that the emitter current is about 1 milliamperes, about. The base current will be 1 milliamp by beta, which is 200. So the base current is 1 milliamp by 200, which is 5 microamps. So this current is 5 microamps. The emitter current was about 1 milliamp, it was 1.1 milliamp. 5 micro is a very small fraction of 1.1, this is 1100 microamps. So this 5 micro is really not going to affect the DC behavior of the first stage. So we say we'll ignore it. The DC behavior of the first stage remains the same. What about the AC? So we need to find the AC characteristics of the first stage when we connect the second stage. So what we should do, to make sure that we are doing things right is actually draw the complete AC equivalent circuit of this these two amplifier stages together. So here it is. So this is Vs, this is R pi 1, beta IB1 and RE1. This is the AC circuit of the first stage. This is the AC circuit of the second stage. So this is a common emitter stage. This is a common collector stage. The output of the first stage is connected to the input of the second stage. Now what we see here is that if you look at this circuit just for a minute, just for a second, what we see is that RE1 and R pi 2 are in parallel. Or in other words, R pi 2 has come in parallel with RE1 when we connected the second stage to the first stage. Without the second stage, there was only an RE1 here. But when we connect the second stage, now the effective resistance down from the emitter has changed. And if this has changed, this is going to change the gain and the input resistance of the first stage, because they both were functions of RE. But now RE has been replaced by RE1 parallel R pi 2. So let us look at these. R pi 2, first of all, is 5 kilo ohms. We already know that, and that is approximately R pi 1. R pi 1 has actually a slightly larger base current, but it is very close, so it's okay. And so we get RE1 parallel R pi 2, which is the so go back here, RE1 parallel R pi 2, we want to find the value of this, which is 10K in parallel with 5K, so that is 3.3K. So the first stage gain and the input resistance get modified. The first stage gain expression is this, 1 plus beta times, it was RE1 earlier, but now it is RE1 parallel R pi 2, and this in the denominator. Gain, still this term in the denominator is large compared to R pi 1, so we can ignore the R pi 1 and the gain is still 1. What about the input resistance? The input resistance was 1 plus beta RE1 plus R pi 1. But that RE has become RE parallel R pi 2. So it was 10 earlier, now it has become 3.3, this total. So the total Rin has become 674 kilo ohms. But we need 2 mega ohms. This is not good. Alright, let us see. So we say, well, we wanted a 2 mega ohm. Can we increase this modifier Rin1? So Rin1 is of course approximately equal to this, and beta is 200. So we say Re1 parallel R pi 2 must be 2 mega divided by 200. So that is 10 kilo ohms. So we need Re1 parallel R pi 2 to be 10 kilo ohms. What that means is that both Re1 and R pi 2 must be greater than 10 kilo ohms, because if they are in parallel, they must each be at least greater than 10 kilo ohms for the parallel combination to be 10 kilo ohms. But we already know that R pi 2 max is 5 kilo ohms. We've already seen this, but here is again a repetition. R pi max is Vt by Ib, which is beta Vt by Ic. Ic is 1 milliamp, and therefore this is 5 kilo ohms. For R pi to be greater than 5, Ic has to be less than 1 milli, which is we are not allowed to do. What this means is that it is impossible to obtain an Rin of 2 mega ohms with this configuration. Alright. Okay, let us recap. So the first stage alone gave us the desired Rin without the second stage connected. When we connected the second stage at the emitter of the first stage, the input resistance of the second stage came in parallel with the Re of the first stage, and so the net input resistance decreased. What that implies is that we simply cannot connect the second stage to the emitter of the first stage of the emitter of Q1, because as soon as we connect it, the resistance drops. So what do we do then? We have to connect the output of the first stage somewhere. We don't have a choice. So we connect the second stage to the collector of Q1, not the emitter of Q1, but collector of Q1. There is no other place to connect it. Okay, what did I do? I'm sorry. Okay, so this is not the circuit I wanted. This is the circuit I wanted. So we connect the output of the first stage take the output from the collector and connect it to the second stage. What that also means is that we have to add a collector resistance to the first stage. Alright, so this is what we have to do. Note that in this circuit, the input resistance is now 1 plus beta times Re1. Because now nothing is connected to the emitter, the input resistance stays 1 plus beta times Re1, and that we can make 2 mega ohms. This is not affected by the first stage connected to the second stage. But what we just did was we changed this first stage from an emitter follower. Now we have made this into a common emitter amplifier with emitter degeneration. So now we have to redesign this. At least find RC. Hope RE should just stay the same, 10 kilo ohms, but we have to go back and design for RC. So that's what we do. Okay, so we'll keep RE equal to 10. And if RE is 10, then the emitter current stays the same, because the emitter current is simply minus 0.7 plus 12 divided by 10. So that is 1.13. Now we have to choose an RC. What value should we choose? RC does two things actually. RC decides the DC value of the collector voltage, and it also decides the gain of the first stage. Both of these things it does. I'll start with the DC voltage. Now we already saw that this VE1 is minus 0.7. So if in order to keep Q1 in the active mode, VC1 has to be at least minus 0.5. It can be higher, it cannot be lower. So we keep VC1 as low as possible, so that so the current is given 1.1 milliamp. The lower the VC, the higher will be RC, and the higher the RC, the higher the gain. So we'll make VC1 as low as possible. We need minus 0.5, so just keep some buffer, so we make it 0 volts. So we'll choose VC1, the DC voltage here, to be 0 volts, and choose RC1 accordingly. So that's what we do. So we say RC1 is 12 volts, which is the voltage drop across this resistor, divided by 1.13 milliamps. That comes to be 10.6 kilo ohms. But we don't have 10.6, so we'll make it 10. So if we make it 10, then the actual VC1 we'll get is 0.7 volts, which is okay. So this becomes our first stage now. 10 kilo here, 10 kilo here. The collector voltage is plus 0.7 volts. That is what goes to the base of the second stage. Alright. Now we have to find the gain of the first stage, because we have changed the circuit. So again from lectures, so first of all, this is the small signal circuit. So now we have the collector of the first stage connected to the base of the second stage. So this whole thing is the first stage up to RC1. This is a collector of the first stage connected to the base of the second stage and the rest of the second stage. So now RC1 and R2 are in parallel. Earlier it was RE1 and R2. Now we have RC1 and R2. So if we analyze this circuit, then we'll find the gain VC1 by Vs. Now we've done the derivation before, so I'm just writing the answer, except that now this is the expression. Earlier it was beta RC1, but now we have RC1 parallel RPi2. So because these are in parallel. So this becomes our gain of the first stage. And again, the denominator, we ignore the RPi1, it is very small. And then the betas cancel. So we get minus RC1 parallel RPi2 by RE1 as the gain of the first stage. Alright. Again, we said IC2 equal to 1 milliamp as before. So we'll get RPi2 equal to 5 kilo ohms. We've already calculated. And so we get the gain of the first stage as 10 parallel 5 by 10, which comes out to be minus 0.33. The magnitude of this is less than 1. This is unfortunate. Can we increase this gain? It's not good to have an attenuation in the first stage. But can we increase it? You think about it. For this design, we live with this. We live with this gain of minus 0.33. There are probably other ways of designing, as I said, so you think about this. Alright. Okay. So this is the end of this lecture. Next lecture, we will go to stage 2 and then 3, etc., etc.